Hello. Hello. Good afternoon. Hi.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Just tell me whether you can see this presentation.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Morning, I had a big issue of moving from one screen to the other. Right. It was not supporting me. Right. Now, Avanti, you didn't come to class last week,
I came, sir.
but when I mentioned your name, you're silent now.
So there was an issue with the internet connection. It was heavily raining.
Right. Okay. Then last week we discussed about the concept of URC 522, and with that I have completed the collection. Right. The last payment method we had to discuss today, that is documentary credits. Documentary credits, the final one, popularly known as LCs. Right? Why we are having two names like that? Can somebody tell me? What is the correct one? Documentary credit or letter of credit? Why, in that case, why we are saying letter of credit, LCs? Any idea why it is called letter of credit? This interesting history. And you should know as bankers, right? Those days, long time back, during 1700, 1800, right? The people, there was no such banking system in the world, or sophisticated banking system. And whenever they wanted to import goods or something, right? They will, the buyer's bank will issue a letter saying that we undertake to pay the buyer, the seller, we undertake to pay seller if they fulfill all these conditions, right? If the conditions are complied with, we will pay. The same definition as what we are having, right? So the buyer has to take that letter and order ship, takes another 1 month to go to UK and hand it over to that particular bank, right? That is why those days we used to call it traveler's letter of credit. Traveler's letter of credit. That letter of credit, with the letter of credit, that guy has to travel. The traveler's letter of credit. Then with the improvement in transportation and communication equipments and all those things, it became letter of credit, right? But later, since recently, about 30 years back, we were talking about these conditions are based on the documents. These conditions are based on the documents. That is why we say documentary credit. Documentary credit. It's a credit based on documents, right? That's why we say documentary credit, right? But normally we use the term LC because we have been used to that for ages. From our ancestors' time, we have been used to call it LC. If you are going to tell your customers, are you going to open a DC? The customer will look at your face, right? For him, DC, AC, DC current එක direct current වගේ. නෑ නෑ මට ඕන LC එකක් කරන්න. Right? They will say මට ඕන LC එකක් කරන්න. people knows it as a LC, right? Okay, now we'll discuss about the letter of credit. Can you see the presentation? Can you see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay, fine. Now, what we are going to learn under this session is what a documented credit is and its main features, the principles that determines the processing and interpretation of documented credits, right? And then the responsibilities and risks of each parties involved, the various types of DCs and ICC rules for DC operations. I think these guys have not put one thing. Yes. Yes. Have they uploaded your Kavindra? Kavindra, you have not uploaded the UCP 600. Mage mail එක බලන්න. මොකේ තියෙන්නේ? නෑනේ. දාලා නෑ. Oh, yes, yes. Yeah. Right. UCP 600 has been uploaded to you, right? You can see that, right? Right. So we are going to discuss about what is a document rate and its main features, then the principles that determine the processing and interpretation of documentary credits, right? The responsibilities and risk of each parties involved, the various types of DCs and ICC rules for DC operation. These are the areas we are going to cover. The definition of a LC or a documentary credit is an irrevocable undertaking. It's an irrevocable undertaking issued by a bank on behalf of the buyer, importer, right? Irrevocable undertaking issued by the bank on behalf of the buyer, importer, to the seller. Seller is the exporter, right? To pay for goods and or services, provided that the seller presents documents which comply fully with the terms and conditions of the documentary credit. 1 minute. Now we have, I think UCP has been already uploaded to you on 4th week, right? It was not there for me, that's why I got it. Right. A documentary credit is an irrevocable undertaking issued by a bank. What do you mean by irrevocable word? What do you mean by irrevocable? Irrevocable means cannot be changed without the consent of all parties concerned, right? Undertaking issued by a bank on behalf of the buyer. The issuing bank is giving an undertaking on behalf of the buyer, importer, to the seller to pay for goods and or services, provided that the seller presents the documents which comply fully with the terms and conditions of the documentary credit, right? Okay. The main features of the definition, is the irrevocable undertaking given by the bank, right? Irrevocable undertaking. Undertaking that it agrees not to amend or cancel without the consent of the beneficiary or the confirmed bank. So they are the parties: issuing bank, confirming bank, and the beneficiary. So all three parties has to give the consent. Unless otherwise, you can't change the or amend the or cancel the LC. Right? The banks only deal with documents and not the goods. UCP 600, sub-article 14A, it says banks only deal with documents, not with goods. Apart from the sub-article apart from the sub-article 14A, there's another article, right? There's another article that is documents, article 5, documents versus goods, services or performance, article 5. It says bank deal with documents and not with goods, services or performance to which the documents are may relate, right? Article 5, documents versus goods, services and or performance. Banks deal with documents and not with goods, services or performance to which the documents may relate. Right? So we are only dealing with documents, not with goods. Under LCs, we order shoes. The goods, description of goods are shoes, sports shoes. And what we have received is slippers, water slippers, right? So are we to pay or not? Are we to pay or not? But the document says sports shoes. But the documents, the goods we received were rubber slippers. So are we to pay the beneficiary? Speak up. Are we to pay the beneficiary? Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, we have to pay the beneficiary because we are only dealing with documents, not with goods. Right? Dinesh, Dilruwan, you all, sister, you all have to talk, huh? Natta make a kamali vena. Okay. Then the phrase which comply fully with the terms and conditions of the document of credit refers to the fact that the undertaking to pay is conditional upon the terms of the credit being made. So it's a conditional undertaking. Unless you comply with the terms and conditions of the LC, you will not pay. It's conditional, right? Okay. Application of UCP. All documented credits should be handled according to the ICC Code of Practice, known as Uniform Customs and Practices for Documented Credit. The current code is defined in the 2007 revision, ICC publication number 600. That's what we call UCP 600. Periodically, this UCP and all are getting revised. Earlier we had UCP 500. Then UCP 600 was introduced in 2007 revision. And we were I think in 2020, we were to get UCP 700, but because of the COVID issues and all, it got delayed. So try your best, level best, and try to get through the exam this time. Otherwise, next time you have to face with a new UCP 700. Right? ඒකට යන්න එපා. මේ පාරම කොහොමද පාස් වෙන්න බලන්න. Right? Okay. We'll go back to the UCP articles. With this, I'll discuss the articles also. Right? It says application of the UCP. But I have mentioned there. The Uniform Customs and Practice for Document Credit 2007 revision are rules that apply to any document credit. Any document credit, including to the extent to which they may be applicable. Right? Any standby letter of credit. This is a type of letter of credit, standby letter of credit. Next week, we are going to learn about this. Then you will understand even the standby letter of credits are subject to UCP 600. Right? When the text of the credit expressly indicates that it is subject to these rules. Okay? Right. DC as a method of payment. Now, as per the 4 main payment methods, advance payment, open account, collection, we have done, right? The main feature in all the above cases is either the seller or buyer has to depend on the other party, right? If they take you for a ride, you're finished. So, documented credit provides the seller and the buyer with an independent assurance in the exchange of goods for payment. It's an independence assurance. We call it independence law. Independence law. The goods and the documents are two separate things, right? Then parties to a documented credit. Like in documentary collection, we also have certain parties, the same parties, but the terminology as per the UCP 600 is little bit different. Terminology is little bit different. Now, for example, the importer or buyer is called as applicant. Why? Why applicant?
He or she is the person obtaining that facility, no?
Obtaining the facility, yes.
And that particular person is liable to settle, no?
Yeah, particular person is liable to settle. Sambo, why he is called applicant?
Person who applied the letter of credit.
Yes, yes. What's your name, Pudha?
I'm Udita.
Yeah?
Udita.
Udita. Udita. That's a correct answer. Because buyer is the one who is applying for the letter of credit. Whoever applies is the applicant, in simple, right? And the importer's bank is known as issuing bank. Importer's bank is known as issuing bank. The bank in exporter's country, is advising bank. The bank in exporter's country is the advising bank. Exporters, other banks are confirming bank and exporter is beneficiary. Okay, let me draw something and explain to you in detail. Right? We have buyer. Right? Another name for the buyer?
Applicant.
Applicant. Very good. applicant. Then we have a sales contract with the seller. Another name for the seller?
Principal.
Under the terminology of UCP 600?
Exporter.
Beneficiary.
Beneficiary.
Beneficial.
Beneficiary, very good. Beneficiary. So this is the step one. Now the applicant will walk into the bank, his bank, and ask the bank to open a LC, and ask the bank to open a LC. This bank is called issuing bank. Issuing bank, because they are the people who are going to issue the LC on behalf of the applicant, right? And then they will advise the LC. Number 3, they will advise the DC to the beneficiary's bank. That bank we call advising bank. Advising bank. Right? This will be in one country. This will be in another country. 2 different countries. Right? Then, advising bank, when they receive the LC, they are doing a post office job. Right? If they receive the LC in an authenticated manner, they will authenticate the LC and advise the LC to the beneficiary. Right? Number 4 is advise LC, the beneficiary. Then the beneficiary, now he has the LC with terms and conditions and everything. Now what he will do is he will send the goods. He will send the goods to the buyer. Right? He will send the goods to the buyer. And if the documents to the advising bank. Now we call that advising bank, later we are going to discuss, negotiating bank. Right? Names, product, now we call that bank negotiating bank. And this bank, unlike if this happened in a collection, the next step will be remitting bank will send the documents to the presenting bank will give the documents to the buyer, collecting their money. Okay, with me? Now this is different. Now these people are having the original LC. So they will check the DC conditions against the documents submitted by the beneficiary. And if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, they will pay. This is a beauty in LC. Then they will pay the money. Number 7. They don't wait till the issuing bank pays the money. They will pay the money. We call this step negotiation. Negotiation. We negotiate and pay the money. Right? Negotiation means giving value. Giving value. Still, all the documents are still within the exporter's country. Still, it has not gone out. But exporter has already got the money also. Collection එක ඔය වගේ වුණේ නැහැ නේද? Collection එකේ අරගොල්ලෝ සල්ලි වෙනකම් මුකුත් නැහැ. Now, after that, once we negotiate, we will send the documents. This is number A. We will send the documents to the issuing bank. Then the issuing bank will also check the documents against the documentary conditions. The other people who have issued the LC, so they are having the original LC. They check the LC and whether if it is compliant with the terms and conditions of the LC, then they will ask these people to pay. So they will pay 8, 9. We debit the buyer and give the documents to him. As per the instruction, we debit the buyer and give the documents to them. After that, we will, number 11, we reimburse the payment. We send the payment to the negotiating bank, right? Now we call it negotiating bank. Negotiating bank, right? Then the negotiating bank will do the needful. Are they going to give the money to the seller? Are they going to give the money to the seller in this scenario?
No, we already have given.
We have already given. We have already given. So then, if there's any balance payment, yes, we will give. Otherwise, we have already given. So the whole process will take about 2 weeks or 15 days. But this guy has got the money immediately. Think about his cash flow. Isn't it? I mean, it's very easy. And the beneficiary also comfortable. Because if he submit the correct documents as per the terms and conditions of the LC, then he will be get paid immediately. Not like collection, he will get paid immediately. Right? Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
Sir, can you explain from number 8 onwards, please?
Number 8 onwards.
Yes, after 8, after the documents are being given.
After the documents are being given, right?
Okay.
Now, once we receive the documents, the issuing bank will check the documents against the LC. Right? And,
Okay.
and if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions, but meanwhile, we have already advised the buyer, okay, we have received a set of documents, please come and pay and collect the documents. So they will say, okay, if the documents are clean, I will take the documents. I will take the documents. So we will debit his account and give the documents to him. Right?
Okay.
But really speaking, if the documents are clean, right? Who asked that question?
Crystal.
Sister, if the documents are clean, and at that time, if the buyer says, I'm sorry, I don't have money to pay you, what is going to be the issue?
So, issuing bank is liable to pay, to the
Issuing bank is liable to pay, they have to pay. That is why, when, unlike other payment methods, before we open the LC, the applicant has to have a facility agreed with the issuing bank. Facility which can be covered with collateral. So even if the customer doesn't pay, we will realize the facility and we will pay the money. We have to pay. Right? We have to pay. ඒක තමයි දැන් අර මේ දවස්වල බැංක්ස් වල we have an issue of foreign exchange issue, right? So before we open the LCs, the central bank has requested us to go very slow, right? So before we open the LCs, we have to get the approval from the high authorities, and we keep the money separately to settle the bills, right? The foreign exchange part. It's a really tight situation the banks in Sri Lanka are having at the moment that you have said. Crystal, is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So what is the confirming bank's activity, sir?
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. No, I don't know how to. Right. You can see the slide now.
Yes, sir, we can see.
Right. Okay, fine. Right. And because of this, right, an irrevocable DC can only be cancelled or amended with the agreement of all parties to the DC. Now we'll see who are the parties to a DC. Who are the parties to a DC? It's very important. DC applicant is not a party to the DC. Who are the parties to a DC? Important. Applicant, issuing bank, advising bank, confirming bank, beneficiaries. No. Right? The only parties involved in what do you call this, DC operations are issuing bank. Because issuing bank is a bank who undertakes to pay. They open the LC on behalf of the buyer. So issuing bank is one. Then advising bank, negotiating bank, we call it confirming bank. We confirming bank. It is another bank, another party, and the beneficiary. Right? Now, the confirming bank is, we are going to discuss in detail, Article 8, Article 9, right? But at the moment, confirming bank is, okay, these days it is happening very frequently. Issuing bank is, we take Panisha, right? Panisha, not a calculator. Issuing bank is Panisha or Bank of Slough. Bank of Slough is okay, good bank. But they are giving irrevocable undertaking that they will pay. But this guy, the beneficiary, can he rely on Pan-Asia and Sri Lanka? More than the Pan-Asia, the Sri Lanka country. We have a country issue. Country has a foreign exchange scarcity. So we have an issue. We don't know whether we will get the money or not. So because of that, the beneficiary will tell, okay, I don't like to accept LC from Sri Lanka. I don't want to accept LC from serial card. I want one of my banks domicile in my country to confirm it. This is where the confirming bank comes. Confirming bank is just like the issuing bank. The same liability they will also take. In other words, if the issuing bank doesn't pay on a compliant documents, if the issuing bank doesn't pay due to certain restrictions or anything, then the confirming bank will pay. Then the confirming bank will pay. Right? It's a second double guarantee. It's a double guarantee to the beneficiary. Now it's clear who asked that question?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. මම දෙන්න හොඳට අටපාඩම් කරන්න. Right. Bank's consideration prior to issuing a DC. Because we are giving an irrevocable undertaking, so by the issuing bank, they have to consider a lot of things. One is the facilities. As the DC constitute a definite payment obligation for the issuing bank to pay against the compliant presentations, documents, we have to have a facility with the customer. And the general security agreement. This is very important, not only for LC, even for collection and even for any trade customers. The first security document I am recommending is General Security Agreement. General Security Agreement is about 13, 14, 15 pages, big document in small letters, right? When we approve the facility to the customer, then we will ask the customer to sign the security documentation. This is one of the security documentation they will sign. When you tell the customer, okay, your facility has been approved by the bank, now you can open LC's QR among, he is over the moon. He is over the moon, right? Then you will say, give General Security Agreement to sign. This is a trade finance General Security Agreement you have signed. Then each page initials, right? Here initial. The final page, put the full signature, put the company rubber stamp, 2 witnesses. They won't read. 99.9% customer never reads, right? And if something happens only, when we want to fight a case with the bank, they will sue the bank. When they sue the bank, I have done this for many times, right? We submit the General Security Agreement to the courts. In that General Security Agreement, he has mentioned, or we have mentioned, that whether it's either, what do you call this, with recourse or without recourse to the customer, we always treat it as with recourse to the customer, right? Anything happens, the customer is liable. ඔක්කොම දාලා තියෙනවා මේ ASCII චූටි අකුරු වලින්. මේ ඇතිනේ කියවන්න නැතුව අස්සම් කළ එක මගේ වැරද්දද කස්ටමර්ගේ වැරද්දද? ඕකම තමයි අපිට වෙන්නේ. You and me have gone through the same agony, right? Putala, the cars sorter, bike sorter. When we take the motor insurance, right? We sign. When we met with an accident, when we are going to cover, when we are going to claim, you are going to have it. Monowari? disclaimer clauses, disclaimer clauses, right? So we don't read. It has happened to me also, right? But that's a human nature. So general security agreement is to provide the following rights to the bank: pledge, undertaking, settlement, authority, right of recourse, everything. Yeah. Everything under the sun and moon, it is included there. Customer will sign without any hassle when you inform them that their facility has been approved, and that's the time you have to get it signed. Later, no way. He will start reading. Right? Then status report on the beneficiary. Before issuing the DC, we'll have to get a status report on the beneficiary. Then the goods. We'll have to see what type of goods, whether it's allowable, right? Whether it's considered usual for the particular customer. If the customer is EH Kure, who are they? EH Kure? Another EH Kure.
Furniture.
Furniture. EH Korean company furniture. For the years, they are doing furniture. Now, they come to the bank to open an LC to import bee onions. Now, we'll have to see whether it's usual for the particular customer to import bee onions. Bee onions again, almari asadala tiyanda. Right? So those things we have to see. Then the workability of the DC, whether the conditions can be workable, and the insurance, very important. Insurance is plus because the bank is giving an irrevocable undertaking on behalf of the customer. So if something happens, the bank wants us to cover ourselves properly, right? So the insurance is also very important. Then benefits and disadvantages in documented credit operations, right? The benefits for the buyer, the payments are made on his behalf in return for documents that represent the goods and give him ownership of them, right? And for the seller, he can look to the issuing bank for payment instead of relying on the ability or willingness of the buyer. Forget about the buyer. On the based on the reliability of the forget about the reliability of the buyer, right? He can look for the payment from the issuing bank. Disadvantage for buyer, he has to keep a substantial collateral before opening the LC, because the issuing bank is going to give an irrevocable undertaking. So for that, they need either marginal deposits or full collateral. For the seller, he cannot obtain payment unless he complies with the terms and conditions of the documented credit, right? Otherwise, he cannot get the payment, right? Any questions? Any questions?
I have one question, sir.
Yeah.
When we were discussing about parties to a DC, we discussed only two. Are there only two or are there more?
Three.
Three.
What were the parties?
Issuing bank, confirming bank,
Beneficiary.
And beneficiary.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And beneficiary, right? Okay. Thank you. Then the bank's role in DC operations: assist in the settlement of international commercial transactions, provide safeguard for the parties involved, ensure payment provided terms are complied with, and deal in documents and not in the goods or services involved. And payments are made on this basis to the bank. And they get a lot of financial benefits. They get forex profit, interest, commission, income, everything, right? When you, if you take from one LC, how much of money we can generate, right? How much of money we can generate? Just say okay. When we issue LC, issue bank, what are the income? One is LC commission. One is LC commission. Then, can somebody tell me? More
Fees,
income?
documentary fees, documentation charges, fees.
Again, the first say at the time of opening the LC,
Swift charges.
Swift charges. Have you seen LC? LC when we advise LC, about 2 pages. Okay, charge again. $2, $3 charge again, shift charge again. But we are charging the customer about $50 charge. Right? Okay. Then let's see commission, shift charges. Then we send it to the advising bank. And the advising bank, right? Advising bank, they charge advising commission. They charge advising commissions. That is the only charge they can. Then they give the LC to the beneficiary. Beneficiary will give the documents. At this point, we negotiate the documents. Then we charge negotiating fees. Negotiation fees. Right? 0.25% again. Percentage again. Then document dispatch fees. Document dispatch fees. What else? All those things are there, right? And then, if it is confirming bank involved, confirming charges. Confirming fees. Confirming fees. Right? And when we give the money to the customer negotiating, then the forex. Forex revenue. Forex revenue. Right? Then we receive the documents, then we go through the documents and the customer will pay and we remit the money. Then comes forex commission. Just imagine how much of money we can generate from one transaction. How much of money we can generate from one transaction. So because of that, LCs is a very lucrative business in any international bank. Very lucrative business. But we are waiting to open LCs and generate funds. But at the moment, Sri Lanka, we are having small issue of the due to scarcity of the foreign exchange. All right. This is the DC cycle, right? What I have mentioned. Please go through it. I'll give you about 3-4 minutes because you have to study this very carefully and understand. Study this and understand very carefully. Please take about 3-4 minutes and go step by step. 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. You all are. You can read, you can understand. Good people. Right. I'll give you about 3-4 minutes. Go slowly and try to understand the steps. I have explained most of the steps. Any questions on this? The same cycle which I have explained. If you have needed
It's a small
any clarification.
Yes. Small clarification,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
Say at the point of document submitted, that is the stage 6.
Yeah.
Okay. In that, bill of lading also handed over to the advising bank or later?
No. Documents means
Yes.
entire documents,
Including the bill of lading, no?
including the bill of lading, commercial documents, everything.
Okay. That is after initiating the shipment, you are handing over whole set of documents to the advising bank, no?
Entire document set as per the LC, you have to submit.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Right? And
Okay.
if, number 7, it says if compliant. If compliant means
That is
the
everything is in line with the
if
contract.
all the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC. If you have asked for BL, if they are not submitted, go to hell. We are not going to give money. Simple as that. Right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Any other questions?
So there's a small question.
Yeah.
In that advising bank number 8, they are sending documents to issuing bank, no? Then
Yes.
Immediately they are going to reimburse the money to advising bank, and then only they are debiting the applicant account.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct. Because as the issuing bank, if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions, they will reimburse. They have to reimburse the money.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right? But normally, practically what is happening is we will request the applicant to pay.
Okay,
And
sir.
number 10, we debit the account and then do the reimbursement. But if they are not, I told you, no, if they say that they don't have any money or something issue, still issuing bank has to pay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Right? Any other questions?
Sir, on number 7, if compliant, is it with recourse or without recourse? Only advising bank pays the money?
Buddha, small, don't misunderstand this particular thing. Advising bank is only at the time of advising the LC, right? After that, we are not calling it advising bank. Sometimes it may be the confirming bank, it may be the negotiating bank. I will teach you those things. But at the moment, yes, your question was?
With recourse or without recourse?
With recourse or without recourse? Very good question. Yeah, because if the documents are complied with the terms and conditions of the LC, then the negotiating bank will negotiate the document without recourse to the beneficiary. Without recourse to the beneficiary, because then we rely on the issuing bank's ability. Right? Without
Thank you.
recourse to the beneficiary. But having said that, I told you we are signing a trade finance general agreement. There we have put a clause to say, if we have advanced the money with recourse or without recourse to the customer, with recourse or without recourse to the customer, we treat it as with recourse to the customer. Right? Okamanda Singalan kiwot puri joke king oganda iganaganda pulla. Whether it's with recourse or without recourse to the customer, it will be done in the customer. We advance the money with recourse to the customer. I don't know whether you people have seen this or listened this TV drama. We had a jokes programs. We call it Vinod Same. Vinod Same.
Honestly dirty.
Honestly Bertie, Samuel Rodrigo, Anna Hari. Honestly Bertie, Samuel Rodrigo, Vinod Same. And I think they got honestly Bertie or a Keno. They were having a quarrel between two parties, right? They got a Samuel Rodriguez and Keno. Mugut ne Mata Ugahano, Umata Gahano. Mata Ugahana, Umata Gahana, and Kauda and Gutikala Demi.
Mama tahu.
Mamma Ramai. They bring Hatamaki under the nanny. On no Oa gave the mic, other TFG Capitala theme. Mamma the Mai Gutikan, Antimata Asankali will love me. But say, even though we are negotiating, if compliant, we are negotiating without recourse to the customer. But if something goes wrong, we'll help the customer with recourse. Right? Umatagana, Matugana, Mamutikala, Inno. Right? Now it's clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Right. You are getting lazy. Right. DC application. What do we do when a customer brings a DC application? Right. Better we have a this thing. This is an application for irrevocable documentary credit. Right. We have the applicant's name, then DC number, blah blah, then beneficiary's name, address and phone numbers, right? Date of this application, import account number, rate to be established by full ticket transmission, partial shipment allowed, not allowed. Only thing customer has to tick, cross or tick. That's it, right? Now, these things, a currency and amount in figures, right? Currency and amount in words, credit available, all these things, it is there. Then the trade terms, Incoterms, FOB, CFR, CIF, whatever, we check. Then the documents required. Then comes the documents required. It says manually signed invoices in so many copies. For shipment by sea, full set of original clean on-board marine bill of lading, made to the order of the shipper, endorsed in blank, marked, freight, prepaid the, collect the, notify the, comma, api tikarna. Bill of lading to indicate contain number, whatever, right? For shipment by air, they have given. Like that, everything, again, list in how many copies, how many originals, documents, then additional conditions, right? Then or any other documents required, we can write it there, right? Then charges, DC opening commission, cable charges, users commission are for the account of beneficiary, the applicant, the then the confirmation instructions. Required charges are for the account of beneficiary, the applicant, the confirmation required, the not required. Right? Then special instructions, if any. Like that, the entire thing will have to fill. And the customer has to sign here. Authorized signature and applicant, right hand side, the final cage, right? Customer has to put the rubber stamp of the company stamp, and then sign by the authorized signatories, which we have to verify the signatures. SV means signature verified. The bank will verify the signature. So this is the LC application. Right? Now we go to the DC application. What do we do when a customer brings a DC application? We allocate a number. That number is given by us. You saw that number, no? Make that kind of the number again. DC number, right hand side top corner, right? DC number, right? Then verify applicant signature. Ensure DC amount is within customer's facility. Check valid import license held or goods with quota limit if required. Right? Check that exchange control regulations are complied with if required. All these things we have to check. Check whether status report on the beneficiary is held and up to date or required if new customer. If DC terms are FOB or CFR, not CIF or CIP, applicant must provide an insurance cover showing that claims are payable to the bank. Insurance is a very, very important thing for the bankers. It's very important, right? In the insurance cover, when it comes to insurance cover, we are going to discuss very soon Incoterms, right? Under Incoterms, CIF, Incoterms CIF means cost, insurance, and freight. Cost, insurance, and freight. Right? Then CFR, cost and freight. Right? Now, cost, insurance, freight, that means when a customer quote a unit price, they will say US dollars 10,000 CIF. US dollars 10,000 CIF. US dollars 10,000 CIF means the cost of the product, the insurance of the product, transit insurance, and the freight has been paid by the seller. Seller has paid everything. Right? Here, CFR cost and freight. That means insurance will be paid by whom? Insurance is paid by the buyer. Insurance is paid by the buyer. Right? Then FOB, another one, is again free on board. Free on board. Free on board. Right? So the seller will put the goods on the deck of the ship, and the insurance will be had to arrange by the buyer. So method insurance buyer, method insurance buyer. Everything by the seller. Right? So that is what we say DC terms, FOB, the CFR, the CIF, the CIP, the if it is the insurance is for the buyer, like FOB and CFR, insurance is for the buyer. Before we open the LC, we have to ensure, otherwise we will not open the LC. We have to ensure that sufficient insurance cover policy is in our hands. In our hands. Why is that? Why is that?
If anything goes wrong, issuing bank is liable to settle.
Yes, very good answer. If it goes wrong, issuing bank is liable to settle. Right? Then check application for full instructions. Check application for full instructions. Check with applicant for instructions that are inconsistent. Check with applicant for instructions that are inconsistent, unclear, illegal, too detailed or complex, and confirm them with the applicant as soon as possible. Right? And compliance with the policies of the bank. For example, arms and explosives. We don't open LCs for arms and ammunitions, explosives, right? Narcotics. We don't open LCs, right? So it's a bank policy. So we'll have to see whether it's as per the bank's policies, right?
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's say we open a LC for B onions, and
Yeah.
then AMUAVing, what happens if they bring narcotics and all? Then is the bank liable in that case, or what?
Problem. This has happened now. In the recent past, this has happened. Not the bee onions. It was with potatoes. They cannot the TVK, right? Potatoes. You know, I'll give you a good example. I don't know, Crystal, ඔගලන් ගෙවල් වල තියෙනවද දන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් ඔය ගමේ ගෙවල් වල නම් මේ දැකලා තියෙනවද මේ අනේ ඒ දුප්පත් මිනිස්සුන්ට කෑම මේසෙ උඩ ලස්සන පළතුරු වට්ටියක්ම තියෙනවනේ. Grapes, then oranges, pepper, all plastic ones. You must have seen that. The bucket of fruits, right? The same thing have, I mean, these culprits have used the same gimmick. They have prepared some potatoes, plastic potatoes. Kerala, potato gunny bags මේවත් දදා ඉවතුනා narcotics. They imported potatoes, but in some bags there were certain, not all, එහෙම දාන්න බෑනේ. එහෙම දැම්ම නම් container load එකක් ආව නම් එහෙම ලංකාව ඉවරයි. They have transported quite a lot of narcotics, right? So banks is also a little bit liable.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
but according to UCP 600, it says banks only deal with the documents and not goods. No?
Not with the goods, but
Yes.
but the thing is, here we are not talking about the police and these people who courts are not talking about UCP 600. They are talking about the country law, right?
Okay.
The bank has to have certain due diligence, and they have to know their customers, KYC. If they have done their KYC properly, very good question, sister, right? You are from which bank is it?
HNB.
HNB. Yeah, very good question, because you are in a branch.
Yes, sir.
Which branch?
Head office branch.
Head office branch, right? Head office branch. Then you will agree with me, and all the others will agree with me, right? Now, are we doing the correct KYC procedures? Are we applying the correct KYC procedures when we open the accounts? Are we doing it? We are doing marketing. So I have seen, people have told me, all the banks, because I have accounts with majority of the banks, I am having accounts, right? Whenever I go to a bank, right, to open an account, sometimes they know me, sometimes they don't know me. But when I talk to them, I want to deposit 1 million rupees. Come, sir. They say, then royal treatment, right? So, do you like to have a cup of tea? Or then application account opening form KYC form. It's okay, sir. You just sign it and give it to me. I will fill. All the details are there in the application form. Isn't it? Right? All the details are there in the application form. Address, everything is there. So what are you doing, sir? No, I'm a retired person now. I'm retired. Okay, no problem. That's it. They fill. Is it a correct KYC procedure we have done?
No.
For that negligence, bank is liable. This is KYCs came from the Basel II agreement. Basel II agreement, right? It has become a compulsory thing. But are we doing it correctly? Very pathetic. Finance companies, this is plus. Banks, oh my, right? I'm කියන්න ඔතන වාඩිලා ඉන්න ඔක්කොම වැඩි කරලා නැගිටලා යනවා. මම banks ටික name කරොත්. You got the answer to your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right? You can't escape, because there is a customer due diligence and know your customer. We have not done it, right? Now this has become a big joke, right? Review of the DCs prior to advising. Now, review of DCs prior to advising. Before that, Sanfi, can we go to the UCP 600? With that, we'll try to talk about the other areas. Right. First, we'll discuss the definitions. These definitions are very important, because sometimes the examiners will test your knowledge on these definitions, right? If you take the past question papers, for multiple choice questions, they have given these definitions. They are asking these definitions, right? So you have to study this Article 2 properly. For the purpose of these rules, advising bank means the bank that advises the credit at the request of the issuing bank, right? Then the applicant means the party on whose request the credit is issued. Banking day. Banking day means a day on which a bank is regularly open at the place at which an act subject to these rules is to be performed. What is a banking day? Is July LC is, there is a LC, a maturity date is July 25th, July 2021. So that means we'll have to submit the documents before 25th July 2021. Is it correct? Is it correct? Right? We have to submit the documents before 25th July 2021. What is this 25th July 2021?
It's a bank holiday.
Is it a one day? One day.
Monday.
Sunday. Sunday.
Sunday.
Main objective one.
Huh? Right? It's a Sunday. Now, Sunday, is it a banking day?
No, it's a holiday.
It is not a banking day. So, banking day means a day which a bank is regularly open. On Sundays, we are closed. So, in a scenario like that, you can submit the documents on 26th July. No issue because 25th July was a bank holiday. Right? Beneficiary. Beneficiary means a party in whose favor a credit is issued. Party in whose favor a credit is issued. That is seller. Compliant presentation means a presentation that is in accordance with the terms and conditions of the credit. The applicable provisions of these rules and international standard banking practice. Right? Compliant presentation. Presentation that is in accordance with the terms and conditions of the credit. So, okay, compliant presentation means A, presentation that is in accordance with the terms and conditions of the credit, right? B, කියලා තව මොන හරි එකක් දෙයි. ඔය වගේ දීලා ඔයගන්ට multiple choice answers ගන්න වෙනවා. Right? Then confirmation means a definite undertaking of the confirming bank in addition to that of the issuing bank to honor or negotiate a complying presentation. A definite undertaking of the confirming bank in addition to that of the issuing bank. When issuing bank is issuing the LC, they give an irrevocable undertaking to pay. Confirming bank also gives the same undertaking. That is why they say confirming bank is in the same shoes of the issuing bank. Same shoes of the issuing bank. Issuing bank against සපත්තු අස්සෙම කන්ෆර්මින් බැංක් එකක් තියෙනවා. අපි දැන් මේස් එකක් දාලා සපත්තු දැම්මයි කියලා. right? එතන අපිත් ඉන්නේ issuing bank එක ඇතුළෙම තමයි. All the responsibilities, obligations is applicable to confirming bank. Right? Then Confirming bank means the bank that adds its confirmation to a credit upon the issuing bank's authorization or request. Right? Credit means any arrangement, however named or described, any arrangement, however named or described, that is irrevocably and thereby constitute the definite undertaking of the issuing bank to honor a compliant presentation. That is irrevocable and thereby constitute the definite undertaking of the issuing bank to honor a compliant presentation. Right? Honor means we are honoring a payment or honoring a document. Honor means to pay at site if the credit is available by site payment, to incur a deferred payment. I want to discuss with you later. Right? Issuing bank means the bank that issues a credit at the request of an applicant or on its own behalf. Negotiation, very important. We talk about the negotiation. Negotiation means the purchase by the nominated bank of drafts drawn on a bank other than the nominated bank and or documents under a compliant presentation. By advancing or agreeing to advance funds to the beneficiary on or before the banking day on which reimbursement is due to the nominated bank. Right? Here we are, when we are going to discuss the other articles, we are going to discuss these things. Issuing bank, negotiation bank, honor, we have to discuss karna. Nominated bank means a bank with which the credit is available, or any bank in the case of a credit available with any bank. Nominated bank. This I'll have to explain to you. Issuing bank, when they issue the credit, they advise the credit to the advising bank. Advising bank. Right? And sometimes we will nominate a bank. If we say advising bank is NDB bank. Advising bank is NDB bank. When we issue the LC, straight away we say we nominate NDB bank to negotiate the documents. Right? So the NDB will become nominated bank. Nominated bank. Right? Here they say we nominate NDB bank to negotiate the documents. So then we are nominating a particular bank. Right? The beneficiary, if they want to go to some other bank, that's his prerogative. But we have nominated a bank. But if beneficiary has gone to some other NTB or Bank of Stan or People's Bank without going to NDB, that is his baby. Right? If something happens, he's also responsible because we have given specific instructions. The presentation means either the delivery of documents under a credit to the issuing bank or nominated bank, or the documents so delivered. Presentation means the delivery of documents under a credit to the issuing bank or nominated bank. Right? Presentation tell me how the present karane. Beneficiary. Beneficiary will do the presentation. Presentation of documents to the advising or nominated bank. Right? Presenter means a beneficiary. Bank or other party that makes a presentation. Presenter means presented whoever the guy who presents the documents. It can be the beneficiary or it can be the nominated bank. But they are the people who present documents. Presenters. They are the people who present documents of the issuing bank. So again, he will be a presenter. Right? Okay. So the two articles I have covered. This interpretation also, Article 3, please read. Right? I hope now you all have finished reading URC 522. We have discussed the URC 522. Now you have to start reading these articles. There are 39 articles. Articles 39 again. දවසකට 3 ගන්නවත් කියවන්න. Exam එකට ඉස්සලා at least 4 times you have to read UCP, right? When you read the interpretation, you will see terms such as first class, well-known, qualified, independent, official, competent, or local should not be used to describe a person or an institution. First class bank, well-known person, qualified, ambiguous, right? Eva use karnepa. Unless required to be used in a document, words such as prompt, immediately, or as soon as possible will be disregarded. Again, we should not use. If they have used, we will disregard it. Right? Okay. Right. Now, review of documents, review of DCs prior to advising. Now, we have sent the documents. I'm sorry, LC, review of DC, right? Now, this DC, we have sent it to the advising bank. Now, the advising bank, before they advise the DC, advise the DC to the beneficiary, they have to go through certain checks. But these are very, very limited. These are very, very limited. It's a cursory glance we do. We don't have to spend time on checking the word to word, going through word to word of the DC. Right? It's just a cursory glance. Right? And I told you, advising bank is just like a post office. Advising bank is just like a post office. The post office postman postmaster job and he has to see whether the correct address has been given and the stamp has been affixed. Then they will deliver the letter. That's it. We do the same thing. What we have to say is authentication correct. It is like fixing the stamp. Authentication correct. Authentication correct in the sense when we issue LCs, we issue by SWIFT. Right? We issue by SWIFT. There's a format in SWIFT. We issue by SWIFT MT700. SWIFT MT700 format. We issue the DC. And this is an authenticated message. So the advising bank, when they receive the LC by MT700 message type, then they know This is authentication is correct. What they check is whether the DC has already expired. DC has already expired. Okay, we received the DC today. We received the DC today, and tomorrow, 26th July, we received the DC. When you just check the LC expiry date, normally we check the LC expiry date, expire. Expire around 27 July. 27 July. 26 July, how many? 27 July expire. Now, we'll have to advise to the beneficiary. We'll have to, the beneficiary has to go through it, and then he has to manufacture the goods and send it. How can they do it within 1 day? Right? So, these things we have to check. Other than that, not much, right? Goods are in accordance with those allowable as per the bank's requirement, right? If there's any bank's restrictions are there or not, that you have to check. Issuing bank country is not located in a UN-US sanctioned country. That we have to check. As the advising bank, we have to check whether the issuing bank's country is located in a UN-US sanctioned country. Okay, issuing bank is Bank of Iran. Issuing bank is Bank of Iran. It's a sanctioned country, UN-US sanction, right? So we will not advise. We know we are not going to get the money, right? So we are not going to advise. Then goods are not being shipped to UN-US sanctioned countries. When the goods from where to where? If the goods are going to Iran, don't touch. If the goods are going to Ivory Coast, don't touch. If the goods are going to North Korea, don't touch. Right? Those things we have to check. And it is available with which bank, or confirmation required or not, right? If the DC amounts are not unusually large values, round figures, normally, when I was working for HSBC, right, even at Rajagiriya office, when I was working there, my target for the DC advising clerks is to review and advise 90 DCs per day. 90 DCs per day. We don't give them more than 3 minutes, not more than 3 minutes, to check all these details. So when you are trained enough, you can easily do it, right? Cursory glance I can attack. 3 minutes me advice, right? It's like a factory. Important consideration when advising LCs, advising banks' roles and obligations. You have to check, right? Then LC transmission methods, how we are going to transmit the LC, advising procedures, and advising commission and amendments. Advising banks' role and obligations, verifies signature on the LCs. If the LC is issued by mail, right? LC transmitted through SWIFT are automatically authenticated. And advising commission, here to charge. Doubt regarding the integrity of the beneficiary of a credit, don't do it. Doubt regarding the integrity of the beneficiary of a credit. So, Crystal asked that question now. if the bank has bank has opened a LC and we have received among the other goods narcotics. So if the bank is liable, right? Same thing applies. Same thing applies. Can you give me 1 minute? Okay. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Okay. So, advising bank, we talk about doubt regarding the integrity of the beneficiary. Right? Now, as an advising bank, we have received LC. Earlier we said we have no obligations. We are just doing the post office job. But having said that, right, when you are advising the LC to a beneficiary, that is your customer, one of your customers. So you shouldn't have any doubts regarding that customer's KYC, due diligence, right? Because if that guy is a well-known drug dealer in Pakistan, right? We have opened the LC, right? Bank ABC Colombo has opened the LC. We advise to Pakistan Bank one of the Pakistan banks, advising bank, and they advise the LC to the beneficiary. We said potatoes, right? So we have to have some sort of idea whether this guy is a popular or famous, well-known narcotics dealer. So what is he doing with potato exports? Right? That part we have to check, because as banks we have to have that integrity. Right? Then LCs received from bank with no established agency arrangements. LCs received from bank with no established agency arrangements. LC not subject to UCP 600. This is also another thing. Sometimes we receive LCs saying that LCs, normally we say LC is subject to UCP 600. Sometimes all of a sudden they say LC not subject to UCP 600. So all frauds, right? I think we won't be able to reach the thing if we start advising procedures. Right. Mathematica Uganda, you can read, but I would like to discuss with you the advising banks that we can do it with this one. For homework, just read Article 7 and Article 8, right? Article 7 and Article 8, because Article 7 is issuing banks undertaking, right? Then Article 8 is confirming banks undertaking. You can see it's a mirror image. Tanikara mirror image. right? Everything just like the issuing bank, right? Here, provided that the stipulated documents are presented to the nominated bank, blah, 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 side payment, deferred payment, everything, Then method, provided that the stipulated documents are presented, side payment, side deferred payment, same thing is coming because the obligations and the undertaking of the issuing bank is identically similar to the confirming bank. I told you, right? That's why I told you confirming bank is in the same shoes of the issuing bank, right? So read Article 7 and 8 before you come next year. Advising of trade and amendments, Article 9. Article 9, A credit and any amendment may be advised to a beneficiary through an advising bank. An advising bank that is not a confirming bank advises the credit and any amendment without any undertaking to honor or negotiate. They don't undertake any responsibility. When they issue, when they advise LC, they do it without any responsibility on their part, right? Without any responsibility on their part, they will advise the DC, right? Only thing as per the Article 9B, what they have to check is whether the DC received by them are authenticated. Authentication also, what they say is apparent authenticity. Apparent authenticity. As you see, it looks like authenticated. Otherwise, you are not a policeman. Right? Apparent authenticity. That's important thing. Then an advising bank may utilize the services of another bank, a second advising bank. For example, NDB Bank is receiving the LC, but the customer is having accounts with Pan-Asia Bank. So NDB Bank will advise Pan-Asia Bank, right? So the Pan-Asia Bank is the second advising bank. Pan-Asia Bank is the second advising bank, right? You have to read all these things, right? A bank utilizing the services of an advising bank or second advising bank to advise a credit must use the same bank to advise any amendment thereto. Once we advise the LC, any amendments also go through the same path. You can't bypass, right? It has to be in the same path. ABC Bank, issuing bank, they advise to XYZ Bank. Okay? Then XYZ Bank will advise to the beneficiary. Now, this is the original. Now the amendment, there is a subsequent amendment. Now subsequent amendment, you can't send the amendment, you can't send the amendment to PQR Bank. This is wrong. You can't send to PQR Bank. Yeah, PQR Bank will advise the beneficiary. This is wrong. It cannot do. It has to go through the same path of the original advice. So amendment also should go same path. Amendment. And then XYZ Bank has to advise the beneficiary. Right? It is very important, this particular point. Right? If a bank requested to advise a credit or amendment, but elects not to do so, it must inform without delay the bank from which the credit amendment or advice has been received. There's no hard and fast rule. You can't say, no, you have to advise. If you elect not to do so, because as an advising bank, you know the beneficiary is a narcotic guy. So you don't want to get involved in this. You say, no, I don't want to advise. The issuing bank cannot tell you, no, you have to do it. I have sent it to you. No way, right? Okay. If a bank requested to advise a credit or amendment, but cannot satisfy itself as to the apparent authenticity of the credit, the amendment or the advice, it must so inform without delay to the issuing bank. You have to immediately inform the issuing bank, right? If you cannot verify the authenticity, right? Okay. Right. Now, the same thing I have given here, right? Advising Article 9, all these things what I have discussed, right? You can go through it, but everything is there. Amendments, when you are talking about the amendments, right? Here, except or otherwise provided by Article 38, credit can neither be amended nor cancelled without the agreement of the issuing bank, confirming bank, if any, and the beneficiary. If you are amending or cancelling the contract, LC, it has to be with the consent of all parties concerned, that is, issuing bank, confirming bank, if any, and the beneficiary. And those amendments, we have to go through the same channel, same path, like the original LC we have advised, and then advised to the beneficiary, right? And a partial acceptance of an amendment is not allowed and will be deemed to be notification of rejection of amendment. In one amendment, you can't have, if you have given 2 or 3 points to be amended, you can't accept only one portion. Partial acceptance, no way. Either you have to accept the amendment in full or none, right? Okay. So with that, I will stop today's session, right? So read at least up to Article 10, 12 up to 14 but the 14 will impasse next week, right? Then we have confirmation of disease. That's also Article 8. If you read up to 10 or 14, then you are going to cover everything. Then we are ready to discuss the issues next week, right? Okay. Any questions? Then in the theory and right? You have to study. I'm sorry. Any questions?
Sir, in which stage the beneficiary's documents are checked, the accuracy of documents submitted by the beneficiary?
Pardon?
In which stage the documents submitted by the beneficiary are checked? In which stage the advising bank?
Yeah, advising bank is not checking. Then the negotiating bank will check the documents. Advising bank is only doing a post office job now. he may become the negotiating bank also. If the advising bank has been nominated to negotiate the documents, then he will become the negotiating bank also, right? Because he has gone through the, they have gone through the LC, no? But anyway, it will be done by the negotiating bank, checking documents from the beneficiary.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, any questions? Any more questions? D01? Okay, right. In that case, we'll call it a day, right? We'll see you next week. Okay. Thank you.